This is the time to be able to ask questions for our three speakers, and maybe you want to come up. And we'd ask you to use the microphones on either side of the room. And so people, we're open for questions.
And we have one on this side. And are we asking people to say their name and where they're from?
That would be very helpful.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
At least where you're from.
Hi, my name is Leslie Diana, and I am here in DC. My question to any of you is, have you, any of you had to develop your own conservation methods because the known methods that you have haven't worked for something that you are working on? That would be a no?
I was going to say, I guess, when when we have records that we're working on, we may try a technique that doesn't work. So, usually it's wonderful here at the archives because we have over 20 of us in our department. And so we can always tap a colleague and say, I'm working on this and having difficulty, this method that I'm using to, let's say, humidify this document or try to reduce this adhesive isn't working. I can't separate these, documents. Do you have any suggestions, any ideas? And we're really good at sharing and collaborating and relying on each other for some advice. So I would say yes, it does happen every once in a while where we do get stumped and then we rely on each other. Does that answer the question?
I would add too that while some of the techniques are traditional and can be applied in many different cases, there are modifications, and so often we're having to modify what we do in one way or another, just to the object that we're working on, that specific case.
And I think our choice of conservation techniques always is informed by the priority or the purpose that the record will be used for. Naturally, exhibits materials receive more time than something that is not going to be exhibited. So we have to alter and make judgments on that basis.
Hi, I'm Saira Hakki. I'm a student at NYU. And my question, I guess, is mostly for Sarah, because you'd mentioned how the demand for the original photographs had increased by 33%. And I was wondering whether you were seeing a correlation between the items that were digitized and the items that were then requested, when people wanted to see the originals.
Right. Unfortunately, we're not really tracking specifically what records the researchers are coming to see. They may be keeping some track of that, the archival staff. However, we're not actually taking an active tally as to which records the researchers are accessing. We do have some ideas as to which records are more popular. And in some cases, those have been digitized and or are available in the public domain online either from NARA or from other institutions where we might have similar images. But there's also a number of images that we don't have put online yet, and researchers are definitely coming to see those.
There's another question here.
Thank you. I'm Beth Doyle from Duke University. I have lots of questions for the conservators, but I'll spare you. My question right now is for Amy. Can you tell us what the staffing for the digital prep workflow is, and can you, I'm interested in a breakdown between professionals, technicians, and volunteers or students. And I'm also interested in who is doing the upfront evaluation that you mentioned with the pink slips. Who does that?
Okay, to answer the last question first, it's usually done by either NARA staff that the conservation staff has trained, or by volunteers. volunteers. And they're the ones that will go through the records and identify what they believe needs conservation treatment. We usually, when we do our initial condition assessment of the records, we come up with guidelines for the prep staff that they will use, and we will tell them these are things that you need to look for. These are the things that we identified during the initial assessment, so we believe these are the problems that you should look for. And they use those guidelines, and we'll go through the records. The breakdown really varies from project to project. We have some projects that rely very heavily on NARA volunteers to do the prep. If you're speaking about the conservation work specifically, everybody in the conservation lab is involved in doing the conservation work. We have more conservators than we have technicians right now. Right now we have I would say 2 technicians that do pitch in and help with the digital projects. Mostly it is conservators that are working on these records right now.
Hi, I'm Andrea Leo with the Architect of the Capitol, and I was paying particular attention to the bound volumes that you were unbinding in order to conserve them earlier. I was wondering if you rebind them after conservation, or maybe always, sometimes, as the case may be.
Sometimes it usually depends on the project. The RG 109 volumes, I think that I was showing the Confederate volumes that Stephen is working on. We are taking those, if we're detaching a cover or detaching, removing some of the hinges, Stephen will, after imaging, reassemble, reattach the cover. Sometimes with other projects, we will make a custom housing for it if there's already loose pages, or if we are cutting some sewing and we fear that some additional pages may become loose after imaging, then we will make a custom housing to make sure that all those pages stay together in the volume.
Hi, Matt Kasperzak, also architect of the Capitol. This question is for Susan with regards to the Leviathan and your cruise scanner.
The cruise scanner, some of you may know, is a very state-of-the-art, large format scanner for digital imaging. It has a very narrow but controlled and intense beam of light, and that can be regulated by a few degrees to give either straight on or raking shots. It is approximately the movable. The bed is stationary and the camera head it can move. And it's able to accommodate about 4 feet by 6 feet. And Jeff will fill in more information.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, we've actually got one. I was just curious as far as the actual scanning of it, whether or not you were able to fit the entire thing on the scanning bed or if you had to scan it in segments.
One of the shots that I eliminated was we roll it on acid-free tubes so that it's rolled, and then maybe a 4-foot section was filmed, scanned, and then checked, and then we would progress that way all through the 22 feet. Some of our other watercolor for the big exhibit, we could scan them in entirety on the bed. I would be happy to talk, and I'm sure Amy and Sarah as well, with anyone after this session concludes during the lunch or other breaks, with anyone that has questions.
Hi, I'm Estelle. Thank you again for a really fascinating presentation. I don't know if this is a conservation question per se, but all 3 of you were talking about oversized posters and items, and I'm sitting here wondering if at least some of the reason for some of that damage is because records have to go into record center size boxes before they're sent to the record center and then eventually make their way to the archive. So I guess I'm wondering if that's true, if that's a true assumption, and if we're doing any thinking about ways to avoid that in the future. I don't know, I'm just wondering about record storage and how that impacts oversize.
Well, I think maybe speaking for all of us, many of the records were housed either folded or in document boxes. The RG 134 railroad maps were folded into eighths and sustained a lot of damage and tears because they were so heavily used in that way. And you're absolutely right. Many of our records come to us because of housing that was not the most harmonious at the time, and we are trying now, particularly with using polyester encapsulation, oversized map storage, and occasionally rolling on large diameter tubes to prevent further damage.
NARA is actually also actively working with the agencies to help provide them with guidance in turning over records to us so that they can provide better housings for them in advance of them coming to NARA.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you very, very much.